What up, Internet? You look good, like 50 chicken nuggets. So we're back with episode 2 of Strange New Worlds, Children of the Comet?
Yes.
Yes. Will, first thoughts.
First thoughts. This was a solid episode. It did not, as we discussed earlier, knock my socks off like episode 1,
Oof.
which was just a phenomenal pilot. Kind of unfair to hold the next episode up to that standard, honestly.
I had to...
It was bringing a lot of new, incredible Trek our way, and there was a lot of wow factor.
Yeah.
This one, a little less wow factor, but solid Trek, which is kind of what we've been after in this, age of new Trek coming out. Mm-hmm. Just like, yes, this is a solid Star Trek episode that I will rewatch many times to come.
I mean, the only place it would come up is in the segment of the ship, but we have other things to talk about there.
Okay.
Can we just take a minute and talk about how glorious Captain Pike's quarters are?
What's happening there?
Is this a luxury liner?
Yes.
Archer would be so jealous.
Oh my gosh.
Of that captain's mess. Archer's is just like a table in a corner of like a bulkhead sticking down.
His was like a full apartment with all the amenities.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
No dishwasher though.
Yeah. Manual dishwashing? What year is this?
What utopia have you sold me? God. My utopia definitely does not involve doing dishes.
Mm-mm.
So,
No.
Mm-mm. Not one bit. Alright. I think we're both in agreement on this was a solid episode.
Very solid.
It does make sense that there was going to be a bit of a come down after the pilot, because if you start at the top of the mountain, it's hard to stay on the top of the mountain. Mm-hmm. But this was good. This was good Trek.
I don't even think they tried, which I like.
Yeah. They weren't intimidated by it.
Because I think this is one of the pitfalls that Discovery makes that I think are in agreement here. Discovery starts out at very much the same level for me. Mm-hmm. And they try to sustain that through 4 seasons, and I'm not totally sold, gotta say.
Break us down our segments. What do we got up first?
So, first up, Aliens of the Week.
Aliens of the Week!
Aliens, plural, there are several.
Yes.
Alright, so we're gonna start off with the Shepherds, and as Pike...
the Zealots.
The Zealots.
It was an interesting little discussion of faith kind of weaved into that episode here and there.
Yes, and I expected, when Pike was sort of reintroduced in Discovery, that once he got his own spin-off show, I was expecting that was going to be a recurring theme, because in Discovery, it's, he's obviously a very spiritual man, and sort of after not only the scientific basis of the universe and more knowledge, but the spiritual discovery as well. So I was like,
which I really liked about him.
I really like about him.
Because that doesn't... Well, okay, they do it a little bit in DS9 with the prophets and Cisco, so he's fairly spiritual, but it's sort of confined into one dogma.
Yeah, but also that spirituality is very much sort of forced on Cisco.
Sure,
he comes to it in the end.
Yeah.
But after it's done, beating him over the head for 4 seasons. And he's just finally submits. He's like, all right, I'm the damn emissary.
Give up. God. Well, he saw the alternative was that Kai Wynn was going to be the head of Right. So, but just the discussion of faith in general and the exploration of faith as these explorers go out into the galaxy and they meet new civilizations and new ideas. So it's fun to have a captain who is on board with that.
I love it.
Because I can't really see. I mean, I could see Picard having that because I can see Picard doing just about anything. Mm-hmm. But he's very much a scientist.
Yes.
And so same with Janeway. I can't really see Kirk taking that conversation super seriously. No,
it's nice to have that balance and that capacity.
Yeah.
Captain.
I like it. Makes a nice perspective.
Yeah.
So we have the Shepherds, who we don't get to meet a whole lot of. I mean, we know they follow these comets around.
Right.
We're not supposed to call them comets.
Right. But they have this interesting idea. I mean, the sort of sketch of their religion as you get it, not a lot of details, is pretty fascinating. Like, they have followed and guarded and shepherded these ancient artifacts, these like installations / comets, throughout the galaxy, as they either bring life or destroy life, or they're the arbiters.
Yeah, the arbiters. Yeah.
Mahanit. This particular one is Mahanit, which is, that's such a cool picture.
Yeah.
We got the natives of Persephone 3.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, we don't spend a lot of time with them. You just get glimpses. You don't even hear one speak.
Well played. Yeah, not interesting for Star Trek. Not a lot of alien interaction in this episode.
Yeah.
Like the shepherds are there. You learn a little bit about them. Mostly they're there to chase Enterprise around.
Right.
Mahanit, interesting. Doesn't do a lot of talking because it's a comet. And then the chief engineer.
Hemmer.
Chief Engineer Hemmer.
Chief Engineer Hemmer.
Who is a... Man, you had to correct me on this earlier because I called him an Andorian. He's not an Andorian.
No, he is an Andorian.
He's
a certain... I don't know what the scientific term is for it.
Branch?
He's a branch of Andorian.
It's not the scientific term, but it's what I'm going to go
with. We're going to
use
branch. We're going to use that. It'll be fine. Called the Enoch. Right? So he is Andorian almost completely genetically, except they're blind, albino, and they have telepathic abilities.
Which going back to the opening scene in the captain's quarters, Hemmer and Spock having a joke on Uhura was great.
I was great.
Like both his super dry, as you pointed out, like he's just got like a really dry delivery on all of his lines, mixed with Spock's always serious.
The perfect straight man.
I'm really excited.
Super dry, sarcastic, up against your perfect straight man Spock.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a great dynamic going forward, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep, moving on. All right, we have junk science.
It's
time for junk science.
I love junk science. My favorite. Well, it's my second favorite segment.
All right, fair enough. So jumping right back onto Hemmer here. There's not a lot of junk science we want to discuss with Hemmer, but being the new chief engineer of the Starship Enterprise, I just want to point him out as the guy, if one of the guys.
He's got a heavy weight on his shoulders.
Yes.
Because we're going to need him to provide us with lots of junk science.
He's got a big job. Most of his scripts are going to be the best quality, meaningless Star Trek technobabble. I hope all his telepathic powers and I hope they just really find just the best ways to incorporate that, his abilities and his responsibilities as an engineer. Mm-hmm. That's gonna be. It's gonna be a really interesting character.
I want him to.
I wanted more of him in this episode.
Yeah,
but. It was a fair introduction.
It was.
You got a tone of his conversation.
Yeah, they had I liked it because in the first episode, in the pilot, they cover a lot of ground when it comes to the crew.
Yeah.
You get to meet everyone in a really good way. You feel like you leave that episode having a pretty solid sense of who the crew is. And then in this episode, they single out individial crew members to do a lot of exposition on.
Do some deep dives.
Yeah, mostly Uhura, but a little bit with Pike, a little carryover from the previous episode. Mm-hmm. And then you got to do. Well, no, I guess it was really just Uhura.
Yeah, but I think they're gonna sort of take that episode by episode.
Right.
I imagine, which is kind of that's just sort of Telltale TV.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
It's going to work just great. Uhura's episode, I loved it. Mm-hmm. I love the deep dive on her.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense to have a character who's not quite as confident, not quite as sure of their role and what they're doing. And Uhura's a good fit for that because she's the cadet, and you already in the original series you get to spend a lot of time with Uhura's character when she's already
come into her own.
Yeah, peak career. So if you're going to go back and explore that character from the beginning, Well, not the very beginning, but like from the beginning of her career, yeah, it makes sense to kind of.
Yeah, I bought it. Next topic on junk science. Spock's icy hot maneuver.
Yeah, he pulled a Shaq.
What was that?
I don't know how they resolved that mission.
I don't really either. I don't really remember the sort of common junk science exposition that they usually give.
They didn't do it.
They didn't really do it.
Spock's like, I have a solution. And you're, for sure, they're like, oh, they're going to use music to convey the asteroid to go away.
I was so sure that was going to happen. It didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen at all.
No. They didn't even try that.
All of a sudden, Spock's just like in a shuttle. He's flying by. It breaks up.
Yeah, he's like heating his hull.
Yeah. Sometimes the best junk science is the unexplained junk science.
Yes. I should have said the ship's hull. I will say the ship's hull. He's heating the ship's hull. Okay. Moving on. I'm glad I caught that.
I'm glad you did too.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did too. And you can point it out for all the internet to see. For they will all be here.
Yes, they... No doubt. Why was it necessary when Sam needed to be defibrillated that we take off his helmet?
Oh, all right. So so the away mission. I have many questions about this away mission. One, why didn't you beam down? Why didn't you beam into the structure if you could beam down there? Two, everyone's walking around with their helmets on. Some guy's heart has stopped, and your first reaction is to take their helmet off.
I mean, so the pads, obviously, unless I just wasn't watching closely, which may have happened, but the pads for said defibrillator must be built into your spacesuit.
No, it was a little silver thing about this big, and Spock just like put it on him, like right onto the chest plate. It was like, boop!
So it's right. So there's either pads in there, or it just conducts right through the spacesuit.
It's the same way that like hypo sprays. It doesn't really matter. Like you can put it into like Gul Dukat's armor. You can put it into like Martok's armor.
Right.
You can put it right on your skin. Doesn't matter. That needle, it's going in.
Yeah,
it is going in.
Right. Put the helmet off. Why?
Anyways, they didn't do CPR.
They did not.
It did not.
You don't need to. It's a press of a button and he's stable the next second.
So I'm like, why? If you're going down to a place with breathable atmosphere, why are you wearing the spacesuit?
Well, that...
No Trek has ever taken those precautions. Don't rob me of like, spontaneous and surprise spores that you breathed in later on. Look. Because the first time they do that episode, they're beaming down without their spacesuit.
Enterprise does that actually more than I think any other Trek. The Enterprise crew beams with their spacesuits quite a bit.
Well, that's because they don't... Yeah.
But
they don't have the sophisticated scanners.
They don't do that. No, they don't.
I was also going to say they also don't transport a lot of places. They're like...
That's also true. But, I mean, it makes sense to me. Like, your scanners say oxygen's fine, but you're going to go interact with alien technology, no telling that the oxygen is going to stay fine.
I don't need that kind of logic for my Star Trek.
Fair enough.
I mean, it was great. The suits looked really cool, too. I love how they stay color coordinated. It's important to know where the red shirts are at all times. So when the firing starts, you can get behind one.
Danger!
Excuse me. Except it was a blue shirt that got killed not killed, but injured.
Right.
Yeah. His heart stopped. He was dead.
He was in fact dead.
But, they zapped him with a defibrillator. He stabilized.
Instantly. Instant stabilization.
Instant stabilization.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm not going to think about it anymore.
Don't think about it. What else we got in junk science? What else we got to unpack?
Well, I think that's it for our junk science this week. I think there was more, there was more material there, and I just didn't write anything down about it. I got lazy.
That's fair.
So, we're going to move on to our next segment. Spaceships!
Okay. My favorite segment.
All right.
Spaceships.
So, the Shepherd's ship was dope.
I
love that.
That was really cool. I like the outer ring.
There were like 100 rings.
Yeah, there was a lot of rings.
There was like a lot of rings. Delicate pieces.
Yeah.
It didn't look super sturdy. It looked menacing.
Menacing, but not very sturdy. And that explains why the Enterprise took it out with one shot.
At least for a minute, they were like, we weren't prepared for that.
They're like, they shot us!
That was...
It's like they weren't prepared for that.
They had a little moment there. They were like, oh, God.
Like, rude.
What the fuck? Very strange.
And then you saw a lot of the Enterprise in this episode,
right,
which I really liked. And one of the things that I really enjoyed with this episode that they not necessarily like highlighted, but you saw it more than you do in a lot. You don't get a lot of outside shots of the Enterprise in combat or in tight maneuvers outside of like the cinematic universe does it a lot, obviously. But this one, when Ortegas was trying to pilot the ship in front of the Comet, like that was just a great scene.
That was great.
Pike's like, hey, remember at the Academy when you said you were going to be the best pilot to ever come out of the Academy? Go.
Time to prove it.
We need to be in front of the Comet.
Yes. So that was fantastic. I refuse to believe that, because as soon as she was like, all right, let's do this, she was like, defensive maneuver.
Oh, yeah.
So-and-so, Ortegas, whatever.
Yeah.
Ortegas Zeta 3.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly. I refuse to believe that was a listed defensive maneuver.
No, it definitely wasn't.
She was just like,
Because
just go.
Pike and number one looked at each other and they were like, Ortegas, what? It's like, you don't get maneuvers named after you.
No.
That one's in the books now. I would have loved her to be like, execute Paris 521. I know the timeline would be all screwed up. With
I would. That'd be hilarious.
But it's a Voyager reference, so it's fine if the timeline's screwed up.
Janeway fucked it up
Yeah.
at some point, and now we've got the Paris maneuver.
You actually don't know when Voyager took place. So.
We have no idea. That's how Janeway wants it.
Yep.
She likes the mystery.
Yes, she does.
All right.
They never really did address whether or not... What was the comet's name? Mahanet? Shahalud? Shahalud!
No.
No?
It was Mahanit.
Mahanit. Well, that sounds like Shahalud. They never really addressed whether or not it's a ship first, and then just the comet built up around it with ice or not. But I thought that was kind of interesting that it's like a quasi-living.
Yeah. Well, I don't think so. It never expressed any propulsion abilities, right?
No.
So it wasn't really. I think its a movement was entirely comet-like, right? So it was like this sort of weird installation built into a comet.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't necessarily a ship. I brought it up under ships because I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
It seems to belong there.
I think ship is going to have a different definition every week.
It's fine.
Some days it might be a station.
That could be.
Some days it's going to be a comet.
With living quarters.
Yes.
All right. So, but yeah, I mean, I was so sure though when they were like, we have to convince the comet to move.
I thought it was going to be music.
Why was it?
How was it not music? Maybe they felt that was overplaying their hand. Get it? They overplayed it. You get it? Because we're talking about music.
It hurts me.
And overplayed.
You're hurting. We're shot by Canon several times this episode.
We were. There was a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Canon.
Yes.
Mostly with Aurora. Which, okay, where do you want to start there? Where are we going to unpack this bad boy?
Well, I kind of want to start with Hemmer.
Okay.
Just because the Enar, I mean, that's pretty, I don't know, it's not oblique, it's not even obscure necessarily, but the Enar only show up in...
It's pretty obscure.
They only show up in 2 episodes in Season 4 of Enterprise.
Okay, so if 2 episodes in 1 season of the shortest run Star Trek...
Okay, so it's fairly obscure. It doesn't seem obscure to me because I love that season and I watch it a lot. But you're right, fairly obscure. So he
Wait, weren't they in the first episode we did? Aren't they in Babel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
3-parter. That's what 3 episodes.
Yeah. Oh. Well, now they're definitely not obscure. They have a whole story arc.
Dude, it's a good one.
It was a very good one.
That was a good one. So I love any callback to Enterprise. I'm totally on board. Mm-hmm. What was interesting is that sort of in the gap of time, as we've said, the Inner are not very... We don't follow them past those 3 episodes. This is the first reappearance of an Enar in Star Trek. So they start off and they're introduced to us as these blind ice dwellers who are both pacifist and isolationist. You know, they are not violent whatsoever. They would not sort of knowingly or willingly put themselves in a position where, like, I've got to defend myself, or, you know, I have to go out.
Or anyone might get injured.
Yeah, and it's not really what they do. And so to have one sort of show up in one of these leading roles in Starfleet is interesting.
A lot has changed.
A lot has changed, and I'm really curious to.
I hope they get back to it. I hope we get in his backstory and Hammer's backstory. I think. Yeah, I hope we get
some further flashbacks.
Yeah, like yes. What? How did the Enoch become like?
I don't know, but God, they better bring Shran into it. They better bring Shran in.
Yeah.
No telling if they will, but that
at least a
great.
Reference.
Yes, at least a reference.
At least a reference.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, moving on, the other instance of shot I can't. Oh, go ahead.
So, just hypothetically, right? Because they're pacifists, they're isolationists.
Right.
Do you think he's, like, do you think their whole society has changed, or do you think he's just a rebel?
So is he maybe like a Saru type figure?
Yeah, where he's like abandoned the traditions of his people and is like, you know what? Like, this has been fun, but I want to go see.
There's no telling, but that's definitely an avenue they could have chosen for him. I'm curious.
I'm hoping, just so that they have to spend more time explaining it, I'm hoping it's like a societal shift. Because if he's just the one-off, then they don't really have to discuss and the development of the Andorians.
You're right.
Like, now that they've joined the Federation and all that. So.
Right. So it's interesting because, like, the Andorians were one of the charter members.
Yeah.
For the Federation, and like were the Enoch consulted in this at all? Like, how was that integration achieved, or were they allowed to sort of be standoffish? I imagine they would have been allowed to continue being isolationist in their little ice caves there if they had chosen to, but you know, it would have brought increase.
That depends on what captain was in charge of.
That's true, but you know, they would have been sort of, just by like transit or property, exposed to more sort of traffic and comings and goings from Andoria, so more opportunity to integrate, you know, to the rest of the Federation societies.
And once the Vulcans and the Andorians are part of the Federation, like, I could totally see how they were like hardcore pacifists, because most of the rest of your society is built around like this ongoing war / Cold War / whatever the situation with Vulcan was.
Series of border skirmishes.
Yeah. So you'd be like, this is stupid. Like, this is a stupid thing to put all of our energy into.
It's true.
But now that that's like fully resolved, it's like, oh,
right.
There's less war than we thought there was.
Right. But what's really interesting too is that, like, when we're introduced to Enar and Shran is talking about them, they were considered a myth on Andoria until like well into Andoria's spacefaring civilization. They had no idea that there were these people, like, in their own backyard, living in these ice caves with blindness and telekinesis and all that.
That's gonna be like, well, I mean, I completely believe that would happen, because look how much of our own planet we don't even explore.
No, it's true.
Right?
But that is cool. But you have to wonder too, like, were the Enar probably, with their abilities, more aware? Had to be more aware, but like pretty aware of like what was actually going on in Andoria and Andorian society, even without engaging it.
That's true. So let's dive into the meat of this. We've been nibbling around the edges of this. Let's talk about music.
Oh no, we have to talk about Uhura and Hoshisato first.
No, we absolutely do. I was joking.
I was like, how could you miss it? This is the whole thing.
So a lot of my early reservations about watching an episode where somebody has a crisis of, like, do they belong in Starfleet, do they not belong in Starfleet, was like pretty mild, considering, because when Ortega's punks her with the dress uniform,
that was hilarious.
I was just like, yeah, awesome.
That was great.
But you brought up a really interesting parallel.
Well, I mean, because being the comms officer and having this crisis of confidence is like a direct reflection of what happens to Hoshisato in season 1 of Enterprise.
Yeah.
You know? She's also this sort of genius with languages that Starfleet desperately needs at the con.
Yep.
But, the only difference is that the crisis is a little differently based. So it's Hoshi Sato doesn't know where, if she can ever find her space legs, if she's ever going to be comfortable like in these sort of weird, tense combat situations.
Right.
Which
is weird because she's an ensign.
But she is an ensign, so she's...
Which brings me back to, okay, what exactly goes into training at Starfleet Academy? Because apparently Cadet Uhura went through it and had never been in a spacesuit before, or in space, or on the surface of a comet. And Hoshi, apparently never had to go into space either.
No, she was very fresh.
But she was an ensign.
I don't understand it either. But they were, the training was a bit different.
Yeah.
They didn't have a billion shuttlecrafts for ensigns to go fuck around in and get flight hours and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's just a difference in resources, but Nog goes to the academy and he doesn't know how to fire a phaser when he gets out of it. So,
well, we haven't really had.
What?
We haven't really had a show do that much of a deep dive on Academy Life.
No,
we haven't.
Probably the best glimpse you get of Academy Life is in the cinematic universe.
Yeah.
And it looks like a lot of what happens at Starfleet Academy is you mess with Spock and you hook up with aliens.
You sleep around a lot.
Yeah. No wonder cadets are coming out of there.
Ill prepared.
Yep. No wonder they all have Vulcan science officers. The Vulcans gotta be keeping an eye.
It's hilarious. So true.
Going back, because it just occurred to me right now. They don't have tricorders.
Did they not have tricorders?
I don't think they had tricorders. Because, Uhura was writing stuff down with a pen and paper.
I didn't realize that.
It occurred to me.
I'm going to have to do some rewatch of that. But if there were, in fact, no tricorders present, that is a note.
That is the worst prepared away mission ever.
Yeah. They're going to get, they land, or they transport down as we didn't bring any.
We didn't.
Uhura's got padded paper. We're fine.
Okay. I just have to continue to rant about that away mission for a second.
Go ahead.
Because you got no tricorders, even though golden opportunity to showcase the tricorders from the original series with the big black box thing.
They're beautiful.
They're awesome.
Wait.
So, blown opportunity to reintroduce those. And then what was La'an doing on that away mission? Aside from just giving Uhura a dirty look.
Just going,
Have you solved this yet? Are we going home yet? Are we dead yet? She should have been on the bridge.
Yes.
Giving Pike dirty looks every time he was like, don't kill the shepherds.
Yeah. Either way, I should be throwing the same expressions around.
Yeah.
They'd just be much more appropriate up on the ship.
Yeah. Way more appropriate on the ship.
Yeah. She was not helpful.
No. There was a lot. This episode had some moments of comedy. Some moments of camp, some moments of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I could have gone with a little bit more. I mean, now that we're talking about it, there were some opportunities.
There were. I also feel like the camp button was so skillfully, operated in this episode that it didn't even seem campy. Even the parts where I had to look back and be like, no, that was Star Trek camp.
Yeah.
It was very fluid.
What moments are you referring to?
Are we there?
Are we talking about? No, I mean
we're there.
We're there.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about the music.
We're gonna talk about the musical interface of Muhammad.
Yeah. Because humming is how you solve problems. Through the power of music.
Yes.
And friendship.
Okay. So we've discussed that You know, there are lots of instances of sort of the musical interface in just different sci-fi and the genre as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, like the Prometheus.
That's probably one of the better examples.
I just love that.
The flute.
It was great.
Yep.
Like the little stone flute that they were using. The sound was like eerie and just no irony in that at all. I just loved that face value. And then on the other side of that spectrum...
What's on the other side of that spectrum?
Yes.
Is it a sabotage?
Oh. I know there are people out there who will disagree with me, but I think that was the worst moment in all of Star Trek history. So, the musical interface in this episode, where do you fall on that?
I like, it was fine, you know? It didn't really wow me.
Right.
It did, you know what? I feel the same way about that as I do about this entire episode. Enjoyable? Yes.
Okay.
Do I have some critiques of it? Yes. I wish it would have played a slightly once they decided to go that route, like, I wish it would have played a larger role.
As we've said multiple times in this episode, how is that not how they asked the comet to move?
Yeah. Because they never actually explain how they got the comet to move.
Right.
Really. So, because I feel like if you're going to do something that far out there, like talk to a rock with humming,
go with it.
Yeah, like you just got to go all the way.
Don't abandon it.
It's not a place
Embrace
to be shy.
it.
Yeah.
You brought it.
Yeah.
Bring it all the way.
So I think it's going to age into the super camp, like when I look back on this 13 years from now. Or 20 years from now, if we look at the same time, like Enterprise to today. But in the moment, it was good. It was fine.
Oh, I bought it hook, line, and sinker. I was in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, Uhura has a beautiful voice.
She does, man. No one. I feel like she was like in her dressing room singing one day, and one of the writers was walking by, and they're like, "Oh yeah."
Oh, yeah.
It's like, where's my Comet episode?
Doing a rewrite. Run out. Yeah, I like that. I like that image too. Okay. So, as we said, this falls somewhere in the middle of sort of musical technological interfaces for me. You know, it was fine. I bought it. It did kind of help at least move that sequence of the episode along. On the top end of that spectrum is Prometheus with the flute.
Yeah, okay.
Bottom end is Star Trek Beyond.
See, mine is flipped. I think Prometheus is on the bottom for me, and Star Trek Beyond, Beastie Boys. Yeah, now I know they're going to eventually get into a little bit more of like a continuing plot thing, because you know the Gorn's still sitting out there.
Yes.
Because they talked about that in the pilot. And in the trailer they teased like a bunch of alien spaceships, and so like there is eventually going to be some overarching like villainy plot.
So the test is going to be will they, once they show us what that multi-episode arc is going to look like, are they going to break it up? Are they going to inject another episode and be like, all right, this is going at breakneck pace.
Yeah.
We got
to slow down?
We're slowing it down.
Yeah.
We're doing an episode that has nothing to do with what we talked about last week, because that is something that Trek is sort of known for. That's something Trek has done well historically, and something that I just love.
You ready to wrap it?
I'm ready to wrap it.
You ready to wrap it? You feel good about this? All right. What do you want to see next week?
Oh.
Episode 3, wish list.
Episode 3, the wish list.
You could have one thing on that episode.
Okay, one thing. Strangely enough, my one thing is going to be at least sort of 5 minutes of Sam Kirk. He got electrocuted very early.
Dude, I'm so happy when he was finally going to
Come on!
He was on screen long enough for Pike to be like, the mustache is growing on me.
Yeah.
And then that was it. That was all he had.
That was it. I want more Sam Pike.
All right.
So that's my wish list.
Okay, yeah, Sam and Pike. My wish, I want the engineering room.
Oh,
like,
that's a good one.
I want to see
Yes.
the warp core.
Yes.
I want to be in the ship.
I need some of the guts of the ship.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time in the pretty captain's quarters. We spent a lot of time on the pretty bridge.
Right.
And it's a beautiful ship.
It is. But, I mean, because
I want to see what makes it run.
Absolutely, because I mean, obviously, when we get that, we're going to get more Hammer, which we also love.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with us. As always, we appreciate it. Let us know your feedback in the comment section. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a like, give us a share, ring the bell for notifications, tell your friends about us.
And we know you like it.
Insist that they watch.